Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we should start.
Okay. Hello, I'm Ophelia.
And I'm Matthew.
Welcome to Art Mood. We're doing this art channel to share the joy of looking at art, which can be historical or contemporary, paintings, sculptures, or even photography. We'll be choosing a different theme for each month, and in this episode, we'll look at another Japanese painting. We'd like to hear from you, so join us or leave us a message if you like what we do. So, Matthew, today is the last um, subject of the Japanese painting, right? So which painting or which artist are we looking at today?
Yes, so with our other streams, we looked at quite old paintings, but today we'll look at something more modern. We're looking at Yayoi Kusama's work, well, pieces of her work. She's made quite a number of polka dot pumpkin related pieces, so we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's very nice. And so, are we gonna look at some pictures or some
Yes,
images?
yes, just a moment. So, um, you can also help me with this because there's a lot about this artist's past, but I want to kind of keep it short. But if there's anything I miss, please let me know. Um, Kusama was born in Matsumoto in Nagano, Japan in 1929. She was born into a family of merchants who owned a plant nursery and a seed farm.
And what did
Um,
they grow? Do you
just
know?
just seeds apparently. They just harvested seeds and they sold them.
But what kind of seeds? Like,
I couldn't find that out, but I suppose it would have to be pumpkins, right? Kabocha.
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
So, well, compared to many families, it seems the life was abundant and comfortable for the young Kusama before World War II, at least.
Mm.
But there were some little dark areas in her childhood. She said it wasn't an exactly very pleasant one, apart from the war, because her mother was slightly abusive, and with a father who was a known womanizer. So Kusama would spend a lot of time in the fields.
Mm.
And do you see what she like get from the fields, like when she runs there?
Yes. So since Kusama was a child, she would get all these hallucinations, where she would see flashes of lights and dots, and she would hear voices from plants, which she would see in those fields, and she would see patterns move on things like clothing.
Hmm.
Yes.
And I
Um,
think that's a very like a great impression, right, on most of her work, because her work involved a lot of dots and colors.
yes.
And she also enjoyed a very long and fulfilling career, actually, and especially in New York in the 60s. Great success for her.
Mm.
And I think she might be the pioneer of performing art.
Mm. Um, yeah, she made quite a different many types of art. She wrote poetry. She wrote stories. She was a performer, and she was influenced by the hallucinations to put dots in on many of her pieces. She
Mm.
would put dots on things like cars, ladders, chairs, rooms, her subjects. Um, one of her works was even just nude people with polka dots on their body
Yeah,
during.
so that's kind of like a performing art, right?
Yes.
And in the 1970s, she returned to Japan because of her health condition. And actually, she checked herself into a mental hospital, which she still stays there now.
Yeah.
But she remains to be a very, very productive artist. And like I read that she walks to her studio every day to work, to
Mm.
paint. And actually, it keeps her sane. It keeps her sanity
Mm.
somehow, right?
Mm. Yes, I believe she was quoted saying that if she didn't have art in her life, she would die. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very, very prolific artist. And
Mm.
she, of course, she has a lot of great works of art, like the Infinity Room, which has been exhibited all over the world.
Mm.
And then there's the Infinity Net. And well, last year she created, I think, over 90 paintings during lockdown. Very colorful with dots and colors, and even she wrote like poetries with them as well. But today we're just going to look at pumpkins.
Mm.
So pumpkins in what it's the Japanese pumpkin is quite different from what we know or what we are used to, right? Like the Halloween pumpkins, the large orange ones.
Mm.
It's actually a small one and pretty refined looking, I guess. It looks like more like a toy or a model or something.
Mm.
And you can see dots there. And
Mm.
do we know what is it called in Japanese?
Yes. So from what I found out, it was kabocha, but it's also classified as a squash.
Mm,
So it's a bit odd. So some people call it a Japanese squash, but we'll just call it kabocha today. Uh,
yeah.
that's more recognizable, I think.
And
Yes,
I think it's like sweeter, right? The taste is sweeter than.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
In Japan, they really like using it for sweet and savory things,
Um,
and it's used, I suppose, a lot of the year, from what I've seen. Um,
the pumpkin ice cream and then the pumpkin tempura, right?
yes, yes. I've had the pumpkin tempuras. It's quite nice. But yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Sorry,
actually,
go ahead.
Duck Chu painted some really cute pumpkins too.
Yes, you're right. During the research a few weeks ago, I did see some pumpkin paintings. Um, yeah, we could look at it another time actually. They're quite nice. So, yeah,
Well,
why
let's
not?
look at Kusama's pumpkin now.
Yes.
So from that picture of the pumpkin, it evolves into different shapes, colors, and also texture as well, and sizes, of course.
Hmm. Yes. It's very. She used them in a very versatile way.
Mhm.
Different sizes, different locations, different types of dots. She would often be seen wearing the same kind of dots on her clothes. She would be wearing the
Mhm.
same type of dots on her clothing to match with her pieces of work.
Mhm.
And yeah, she did ceramic. Go ahead.
It is it is quite interesting that it's quite a hypnotic um, illusion, or at least visually, because it's a simple shape. It's round, but it's lots of little round dots on it,
Mm.
and it has such a fluid appearance as well. If you look at different types of the pumpkins that she created, right? There's the stainless there, and then I like that one that looks like it's flattened.
Ah, yes, you're right. Yeah, the top one.
Yeah.
Mm. Um, I tried to look into why she particularly liked using dots for a lot of her work,
Mm,
and supposedly the circles in these or the dots in her work represent the moon and the sun, calmness, senselessness, infinity,
mm,
movement. Um, they somehow create a texture without really not being able to touch it, but you can kind of it creates a texture in your mind, I suppose.
mm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What else?
Because it's like a continuity of something, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then that large pumpkin there, I mean, even though it kind of looks like an octopus in the right bottom corner, but because Kusama's work or pumpkin is so recognizable, we can just spot it right away. It's his pumpkin. It's Kusama.
Yes, that's true.
We don't really need to know, whether it's pumpkin or an octopus or like an alien.
That's true. That's true.
No, we just know it is a pumpkin.
Mm-mm. Um, I guess the number one thing that's you should aim for when you're an artist is to be recognizable by everyone.
Mm,
So I can immediately recognize it's her work by seeing these polka dots on these objects.
yeah,
And aside from the pictures we have here, there are a lot more pumpkin sculptures and paintings that she worked on. And the work she produced during the lockdown is mostly polka dot related work, and
yeah.
some including her pumpkin, um, her reoccurring pumpkin motif.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And I like that ceramic one over there at the bottom, the blue and white one. That's a
Yes.
very nice small pumpkin.
Mm-mm.
And the first time that I see this like ceramic one. So I
Yeah.
went to the Forever Museum of Contemporary Art in Kyoto some time ago. So it's a very nice museum converted from a traditional wooden house.
Mm.
And it's a very nice kind of zen-like garden where they have, you can sit there and then just look at the dry landscape, with the small pebbles or stones.
Mm.
And then, like, this museum collected, I think, over 700 pieces of works of Kusama,
Wow.
and they exhibited there. So it was the first time that I saw so many of her work, but most of the works are older pieces. They're
Mm.
not very recent.
Mm.
So you can see like infinity net everywhere, and then there was this huge pumpkin, the yellow one with
Mm.
black dots, just
Mm.
right at the entrance.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow. It's really fascinating how much work she just created in her life. And from what
Yes.
I read, it became kind of a compulsion to just create, 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 you know,
Mm. Mm.
to a point it kind of consumed her. Um, she just felt like, I need to make more things. I need to make more things. So hearing that she at least had at least 700 pieces of work she's done, plus even some movies that she made.
Movies,
Yeah, apparently
like
she
in the 50s or quite recent.
like it just said movies, but I didn't check which ones they were. I guess it's just about her particular work. So
Like
like
a
her,
documentary or
yeah, it's just
retrospective or something.
it's just her discussing her work. But apparently
Right.
she worked on those movies. So yeah, I thought that was quite
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Um, but yeah, which one I would actually the one in the middle is quite different from the others. Um, it's
Yeah,
hard to.
it looks
Sorry, go ahead.
metallic, right? Metallic with colorful dots.
Mm. Um, it's hard to see it from this distance, but if you zoom in, can I do that? Give me a sec. Can I zoom in more? Maybe that's it.
Oh,
Uh,
the dots are like swirls.
yeah. That's true, and I suppose it's I forgot what that's called.
Or like fingerprint.
Mm.
Looks like fingerprints too.
Mm. Um.
Or
Most.
submarine. It looks like a the
Mm.
little stem on the top looks like a submarine. That
That's
and
true.
it's like a
I didn't notice that actually. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I was trying to think of the word. I think it's mosaic. The kind of design.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So little pieces of squares on a kind of a white background to make up all these circles
Pattern.
and patterns. Yeah. It's I don't. It's probably the most probably time consuming work I can see here, at least. It's not something that can just be done over a weekend, I suppose.
Hmm.
But yeah, it looks really nice. Um, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not it's not as bizarrely shaped compared to her other pieces of work, so it's more symmetrical.
Hmm.
It's an interesting choice, but yeah,
It's more like the standard
yeah,
pumpkin shade.
yeah, exactly. Um, did we ever find out why she chose to use a pumpkin for her pieces of work?
Well, I'm not sure, but I guess it's because of her childhood.
Mm,
So with all these hallucinations, and she kind of like transferred this energy or this vision onto her art, right?
mm, yeah,
And
mm,
it because like her family owned this farm, a seed and plant nursery, and I think they grew kabocha, like pumpkins, and it
mm,
kind of like a childhood thing. Like I can't really like say like fantasy, but it's more like an attachment. I would say maybe.
mm. I can see that.
Well, she's such a popular and sensitive artist, and her work is very universal, as we can see here.
Mm, very true.
I mean, anyone will, it appeals to everyone.
Mm. Um, Relating to that, I had kind of a theory about why. I mean, it might be stretching it, and it might sound bizarre. Um, but I think maybe the reason the pumpkin was used is because it's apparently the kabocha is actually grown in many different countries,
Mm,
like South Africa, and the U.S., Mexico, Jamaica, Chile.
mm,
Um, and her work has been in all those particular countries as well.
mm, mm,
And but the kabocha, of course, started in Japan, and then it started being imported to other countries to be grown there as well.
mm,
So in a weird way, this kabocha is kind of like her, a Japanese product that was sent overseas to grow and flourish in other cultures and countries. Um, because from what I also read, she started doing. She initially started off going to this Kyoto School of Art,
mm,
and she studied Nihonga, which is
mm,
just producing traditional Japanese art. But she started to really dislike Japan and that kind of work.
mm,
So she was really into U.S. and American art. So she went there hoping that she can just produce that kind of work.
mm,
So I feel like the pumpkin kind of represents her in a weird way, like
mm.
this Japanese product that's in other countries. And I've seen some of these images of her wearing clothing in this with patterns similar to one of her um, one of her pumpkin works.
Right.
Yeah, it might be a stretch. I don't know. Maybe I'm digging deep. I don't know. It's but I thought it was a nice. I don't know. I thought that might be something. But well, what do you think? Am I? Is it a
Yeah, it
stretch?
could be. It
Yeah.
could be. I just thought like she went to America because she found the art scene in Japan was suffocating, was backward and not open minded, especially to women artists.
Yes. Yes.
So she went to Japan and made a name for herself,
Mm,
which was great and very admirable. And
mm,
her such a long career.
mm. Supposedly, it didn't start off as successful as she hoped it would be right at the beginning.
Yeah,
So she had to struggle for quite 1 or 2 decades before her work was like really well known. Because apparently there was still kind of maybe it was due to sexism or something, but her work took a while to take off because
you
a
mean in
lot of
Japan
no,
or
no, in the
in
U.S. as
America?
well. It was there was kind of a similar issue there. So
Yeah.
even though she was able to produce a lot of work even during that time, she still um, she still struggled a lot to get recognized compared to her male artist colleagues.
Well,
Um,
she wasn't able to sell any art, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think one of her friends had to buy some of her work initially because she
Yeah,
was
like
pretty.
she asked her friend asked a dealer to buy some of her works.
Yeah.
And she was actually mostly forgotten when she returned to Japan.
Yes.
But she continued to, of course, produce art. And then I think the big breakthrough was the Biennale in Venice, where she exhibit her pieces there.
That was in the 90s?
Yeah, I think it was in the 90s, pretty early. So what's your favorite thing about the pumpkins here?
Well, I like how diverse they are. So they're all kind of different. They're all either paintings or sculptures, and they're also made from different things, and they're presented in a different way. It's she uses this pumpkin design in a very versatile way, and it's kind of a hard thing to do, I think, even for anyone to keep making the same sort of thing, but making it different each time. She's actually she's kind of I mean, I know she's famous now, but it's sad that it took such a long time for her to be truly recognized. If she was able to make so much pieces of work in her life, you know, it's a hard thing for even writers or anyone who creates to be able to make that many things in one's lifetime.
Yeah, she does. She's very highly productive.
Yeah. What about you? What's your
I think the circles is very appealing. It's round, the circles, the shape, and like you said, it's very malleable too. When you look at the pumpkins, right? They're so soft and it's adorable, and it appeals just to everyone. Really, like some art, like some might find it a bit grotesque or violent, or the color is a little bit off or too dark, but she picks really bright colors, and it really brightens up people, because when we look at things, we want to look at things that makes us happy.
That's true. That's true.
This is what I feel about the work, and I like about the pumpkins.
It's just something about a pumpkin that's just wholesome, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the end of today's episode.
Yeah.
And our Japanese month. So we'll begin a new subject next week. William Hogarth, and another great British painter. So join us next week at the same time, and we'll look at some of his greatest satirical paintings.
And you can also check our previous streams on our YouTube channel under the same name. So until next time, take care, and good luck with your endeavors, I guess.
And good night or good afternoon, wherever you are. See you next week.
See you next week.